Yeah. Get your ass in here, bot. Alrighty. Craig is usually pretty reliable, but recently he just decides to leave whenever he feels like it. You might have to look into a new solution, but Craig will record both of us on different audio tracks, which means that we can edit each other individually, or each one individually. So
convenient.
Very, very convenient. In the meantime, I'll get the backup going anyways. I might need it. Well, it hasn't left yet, so that's probably a good sign. Anyways, all right. Okay, so just to get a baseline as a starting point, when did you first get into speedrunning at all?
First point where I actually seriously considered doing it was probably around 2011 or so when Siglemic was doing his 120 star speed runs to get world record over and over and over for a good week straight. But SM64 never really appealed to me, so I got into Sunshine instead. By the
Same.
next year, I was doing runs, but uh, Sunshine was not really the most popular game at the time, and I really wanted to pick up a run that didn't have a whole lot of cutscenes the way Sunshine did.
Yeah.
So I decided sometime around September or October of 2012 to pick up a 2D game, either DKC2 or DKC3, because at the time, SRL, the big four that I can remember being raced at the time, was SM64, Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past, and Donkey Kong Country 2.
Yep.
So, Donkey Kong Country 2 seemed very popular. So, just like how I deviated from SM64 to go to Sunshine, and what started off with Donkey Kong Country 3. Not too long after I got into it, though, Hurricane Sandy hit. And while we didn't have any internet, I figured, you know what, may as well make this time useful. I'll just grind out these 2 runs as much as I could. And honestly, it was kind of fascinating as a new speedrunner. It really helped me to learn both of them at the same time, because I learned very early on, like, you could save a whole lot of time in Donkey Kong Country 2 doing a whole bunch of flashy stuff, like wrong warps and whatever. But particularly at the time in Donkey Kong Country 3, your time saves were entirely dependent on your movement. I actually really, really like that about Donkey Kong Country 3. It's not like, oh, I messed this up. It's fine. I'll save 30 seconds on a wrong warp in World 6. It's nothing like that. You have to just play better. So that's something that really stuck to me when I started to run Donkey Kong Country 3. Why it stuck to me.
Yeah, that game is pretty straightforward in that not a lot of like big tricks. It's mostly just you gotta just play good.
Yeah.
Or at least it used to be that way.
And now you have to play good and get lucky. But
exactly.
All in all, though, I did, after getting DM'd for the interview, I decided to, take a look and see how it is at the moment. And for the most part, other than Bleak Skip, the Lucky Pause, it's still just a lot of really good movement. And that optimized movement has saved, excluding the Bleak Skip, probably around 3.5 minutes, I think, off of what I remember. It's incredible.
Absolutely. So whenever you first started running, I know that you didn't have internet, but for a week or whatever, but who else was around that was also running DKC3?
At the time, there really wasn't much of anyone. The only other person, well, no, only other people I can remember would be Morks and Tekio. who would very soon pivot over to 103 for most of his time in DKC3 after that. Tack Blossom, I believe, would do some races every now and then. And occasionally the DKC2 players would hop in for a race every now and then. But for the most part, it's just me and Morks trying to beat, I believe, Drum at the time in his 49, 45.
Sounds right. Okay. Talk to me about Morks. He was one of the first people to like really, I don't know how to describe it, just really batten down, and he got the record right before his GDQ run. But talk to me about Morks a little bit. What do you remember about him?
I'm not gonna lie, the main thing I remember about him is discussing whether or not Lightning Lookout was RNG. That's the only thing I ever really think about. Because I was really obsessed with like optimizing movement through stages once I figured out that that's what Donkey Kong Country 3 was mostly going to be about. So when it came to Lightning Lookout, I just kind of realized if I replicate my movement, I get the exact same results. But one of the people I had to argue with that about, who would say, it's RNG, it wasn't works. Like that's the main thing I remember. But I also do remember peeking in, just seeing him like I don't think I would peek into a stream and consistently see the same strats. Felt like I don't know. I don't know if he was grinding a lot, but it felt like anytime I would peek in, he just seemed to be just better and better and better. If the occasional, random mishap that would cost him a super, super good time. But he was always optimizing and pushing either towards the record or pushing the record down while he was around.
Perfect. Did you watch his GDQ run?
I did, but I won't lie to you. I really don't remember it.
It's okay. I was just curious. Okay. So he said that was like in 2012, right? When you first joined? 2013-ish?
Yeah,
Okay.
late 2012.
Okay. Just trying to get a timeline. Because Morks would get that record late 2013, do a GDQ run 2014. And then the game kind of went quiet for like a whole year. Like I think the next record that comes in with Claude around 2015. Were you still running at that time or working on something else?
I think at that time I was running the Mario Galaxy games. At that
Okay.
time, they were also pretty silent, so not only just to sort of get the ball moving on some of the inactive categories in that game, but also because of the 602 events that would go on, where it was just like all stars and all the 3D Marios at the time. I really just buckled down and grinded on that.
It's crazy.
Okay, occasionally, when one of those longer runs would die, I'd just pivot over to Donkey Kong Country 3, but for the most part, the Mario games were my focus. And
Okay.
honestly, in hindsight, I kind of regret it. I wish I just stuck with Donkey 3. I really liked it.
Yeah. What would it surprise you that DG's referred to you as the unsung hero of DKC3?
That does surprise me quite a lot. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean this to sound overly critical, but I can't help but feel like part of the reason I'm unsung is because there really isn't much to sing about.
Well,
Like, I
that's
guess,
not maybe true.
I guess one thing is just I really emphasize things others didn't. It's like I alluded to earlier. Like a lot of the time, the Donkey Kong Country players were playing 1 and 2, and they were focused on wrong warps and jump rolls and whatever. And Donkey Kong Country 3 wasn't really that, you know, interesting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I I found it interesting, so I just take what movement the game gave me and did what I could with it. So I guess maybe that's what he might be alluding to.
Maybe. I think when he told me about it, He described you as someone who was really good and was always interested in finding new strats and new time savers, but just was never really able to, clinch out the run. And other people like Claude would take what you had found and would implement into their gameplay. But Claude was just had more of a clutch factor, as I think he used, so that Claude was the one who took the records. Not because he found a bunch of stuff. Well, he did find some stuff, but it was more that you would find stuff and he would take it, and that would make his gameplay better.
I suppose, although being perfectly honest, a lot of my movement optimizations that I did was from watching a bunch of old tasks and just trying to implement what I could. Like a lot of stuff in 6.1 where it's just kind of squeezing through tight spaces through buzzers. That stuff I would see like an old task, and it's like, oh, all right, I think I can try that. If it didn't work, oh well. But a lot of the time it did. It's just no one had ever really tried it in person before.
Mm-hmm. Have there been a lot of tasks for this game?
I'm not sure if there's been any recently, but I think back when I used to study the tasks, there was like 2 or 3 I could use for reference.
Oh man,
Yeah, there was more than I expected, and more strats that I could use than I expected to.
nice. I think that's one thing about Claude that I've been told is that he never watched the tasks, so that might be where you made the connection.
Yeah, I could imagine that. Hmm.
What do you think about Claude?
Uh,
What do you remember of
Claude.
him?
Main thing I remember about Claude is he is a meme lord, but he is very good at everything he does.
Yes.
Everything he does, he just seems to always be great at it. Donkey 2, Donkey 3, SMRPG, always, always a good player at everything he does. I have a lot of respect for him.
Okay. Yeah, he seems to be one of those people who, whenever he gets attached to something, he just really goes all in on it.
Yeah, he was one of those Donkey 2 players who once he came over, it's like, all right, I came close to getting the record, but I guess I'm not getting it anymore. As like those Donkey 2 players, they they were just really, really, really good. And I knew they would pick up the game in no time. It didn't really make me hesitate in, offering any word or showing any strat if it could help them, but once they pivoted over, I knew it wasn't going to happen for me.
What do you think that is? Why do you think that is that DKC2 runners were so good?
I I wish I knew. I think if I knew, maybe I would have had it too.
All right, fair
but
enough. Fair enough.
but I don't know. There was just something different about not even just seeing them run Donkey 2. It's just seeing them run Donkey 3. It's just like I don't know. They just they made some of the most inconsistent stuff just seem seamless. It was so impressive.
One of the really fascinating parts about that video we did for DKC2 was the fact that like there was a donkey race like every other day for like years.
Oh yeah, I
I
remembered. I used to join those all the time whenever I could. But
yeah.
yep, it's just like the video said. One day, I'd log on for the weekly, and it just wasn't there anymore.
Hmm. A part of me feels like maybe one of the reasons why DKC2 players were so good at it was they just practiced so much. They played so much. It was just like let's just keep going. Go 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 go. And so then we're like, hey, got a new game? Let's go 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 go. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Plus, I think a lot of them had tried Donkey 1 first, so they're probably used to tedious grinding.
Oh, true.
Because Donkey 1 is like it's a game I've also run a decent amount, but it doesn't matter how good it is if you don't hit the frame.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure running that game probably gave them a lot of patience, more than enough to master Donkey 3.
I guess so. Before I forget, what version were you running when you first started? SNES English?
think it was when I first started. I think it was Wii VC.
Wii VC. Okay.
Though I did eventually pivot over to SNES, and then after that, JP.
Okay. Um, do you know what the difference is between VC and SNES?
Off the top of my head, no, but I do remember some of the differences were rather odd. No, I think I'm thinking of SNES U and J version. Uh,
Yeah, I know
to
those have
prevent,
some odd differences, but yeah.
yeah, just to prevent any potential misinformation, I'd rather just, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't think that the VC to SNES differences were that major. Um, because everyone's like, oh yeah, there was not much. It didn't. No one ever talks about it. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess it wasn't really noteworthy. So,
Yeah, it wasn't as blatant as, Donkey 2, where it's just VC's better. It was a little more complicated.
I get you. Um, so you started on the US version. Was one cycle chaos being done in your time?
Uh, Not exactly. I mean, it was a thing that I knew because, again, those old tasks, but it's just didn't really seem particularly feasible. I mean, maybe something like a 3 cycle or so was fine, but a 1 cycle back in like 2012 was not really a goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on Bleak Skip? I know you talked about it a little bit here and there, but when was that discovered and when was that implemented into play?
I don't remember exactly when it was discovered. I do know it was implemented pretty much immediately, and the world record dropped like 20 to 30 seconds very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But as for my thoughts on it, I hate it. I really. It's one of those ironic things where it's like, for a while, everyone was hoping for a big skip for Donkey Kong Country 3, like for Donkey 1 and Donkey 2. And then when we finally got it, it's just like, oh crap, just go back. I don't want it anymore. Like, the big issue primarily is just the way the SNES pause button is.
Mm.
It's not like a Joy-Cons or a Wiimotes where it's just like a click button. It's like a squishy button. So finding out exactly how much pressure you need to put in to get the pause at the right moment is a little awkward. So it's just one of those things that you really have to grind on your own to get a feel for and then just pray.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like DKC one has like 7 or 8 one frame tricks, and if you miss it, that runs over. But then this one feels like it's worse somehow.
Yeah, because the thing is with Donkey 1, it's on a consistent button and just hitting the Y button at the exact right time.
Mm.
There's just no real reliable way, at least I didn't find a reliable way to consistently hit pause at the exact right time. Like, I can listen for the audio cue, I can look for a visual cue, but it doesn't really matter if my input is wrong.
Mm. Okay. I am curious though, now that we talk about it. Does does the community allow like different controllers?
I don't think that was a real problem back at the time because everyone would just use a Super Famicom controller, but I'm not sure what the community consensus is now. I haven't really been around in a while.
I wonder. I wonder if there's a different controller that like, or maybe like a controller you could remap that has like start on one of the face buttons, and you could swap it in kind of like with Bowser throws in SM64, and then you could just maybe hit it there. That might make things easier, but sounds
Could
kind of
be.
cheaty. I don't know. I don't know if people would want to be into that, but it's just a thought I had.
I mean, you could also, I imagine you could also just play on classic controller on Wii VC.
Oh,
That would
true.
probably solve the issue, but most people prefer, at least I back when I played, most people just prefer to play on the SNES rather than VC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's definitely the feeling I get. I remember in the DKC2 video in particular when we talked about Reflected versus Claude, because Reflected was all VC and Claude was all SNES. And everyone that I talked to described it as like SNES just feels better to play on. And it was like, okay, well, that's hard to describe. Just feels good to play on
Yeah.
this.
As someone who played on VC, I agree. It was very hard to feel.
Yeah. So that's kind of a funny thing. It's probably like you got to experience it to understand it. But yeah, I guess that's just what it is. Some sort of weird delay or something.
Yeah, I don't really get it. I know I have tried it because at the time it was a big thing, but it just never stuck with me. I just didn't really get what they were going for there. So I just
Mhm.
stuck with VC. More convenient.
I get you. Okay. I've gone through most of my questions here, but do you have any stories that you want to tell about your time with the game?
Um, well, I remember basically my main memory that still sticks with me is the world record being 49:45 and me clocking in at a cool 49:46 and thinking, ah, it's fine, let's get a world record the next day. I never got a world record ever at any point. All because of a few little mishaps towards the end in World 7. World 7 is, it has and always will be just a problem.
Hmm.
It's so easy to bleed time there, either through lost movement or 7-2 RNG. But yeah, I just remember that thought in my mind. I'll get world record, I don't know, maybe even tomorrow. And still waiting.
It's gonna be a little harder to get that nowadays.
Just a little, yeah.
Just a little bit. Okay. All right. And just to leave the door open, uh, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you think we should talk about?
Um, Nothing really comes to mind immediately. But hey, if something comes to mind later, guess I could send you a DM. Who
Sure.
knows?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, in that case, thank you so much for talking to me, man. I know this was kind of a shorter one, but like I said, you were referred to as the unsung hero, and I said I got to get you in here. So
I guess I'll have to give a hat tip to DGs then.
there you go. There you go.
Really, I
You got
appreciate the
big,
compliment.
yeah, you got big shoes to fill. So I'm expecting big things from you, Nocturne. All right, let me end the recording here.